Hello and welcome. In the world we live in today, anxiety can feel like this constant hum in the background, this static we just can't seem to turn off. But what if I told you there's a simple, really structured way to find a moment of genuine peace? Today, we're going to break down a powerful 5-minute prayer that's designed to do exactly that. We're going to go through it piece by piece to really understand how it works.
So that really gets us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? How can a simple, structured prayer actually reframe the way we experience anxiety? Now, let's be clear. This isn't about making our problems magically vanish into thin air. It's about something way more profound. It's about shifting our perspective and, maybe more importantly, changing how we carry the weight of all our worries. So let's walk through this process together, step by step, and see exactly how it's done.
All right, the very first step in this whole process might actually be the most important one. And funny enough, it doesn't involve saying a single word. It's all about preparation. See, before we can even begin to tackle the noise swirling around in our heads, we have to intentionally create a space for quiet. Not just around us, but inside us too. This is the foundation, and without it, the rest of it just doesn't work as well.
And the first action is so powerful because it's so incredibly simple. The idea is to just find a comfortable spot, a favorite chair or corner of a room, close your eyes, and just be. The instruction isn't to start listing off your problems or pleading for help. It's just to quiet your mind. Focus on your breathing, in and out. And from that place of stillness, you're invited to just imagine being in a room where God is sitting right there with you. Not in some grand, intimidating way, but just sharing the space. It's all about establishing that sense of presence before you even think about unpacking your worries.
Okay, so once you've established that sense of quiet, that feeling of a shared presence, then we move into the core mental framework of the prayer. This is where we actually start to engage with those anxious thoughts. But, and this is key, not by wrestling with them. Instead, we use this really powerful tool of visualization to give them some kind of form, some substance, making them something we can actually manage, instead of something that manages us.
And that tool is a beautifully simple, yet really profound concept: the box. Just imagine that God, who's sitting there with you in that quiet space, presents you with a box. Now, this box isn't empty. It contains every single thought that's causing you stress, concern, and anxiety. For you, maybe it feels like a giant, heavy shipping crate. For someone else, it might be a small shoebox. The size really doesn't matter. What matters is that you're seeing all those swirling, abstract worries contained in one single place. Psychologically, this is a huge deal. It's an act of externalization. You're separating the thoughts from your identity. They aren't you, they're things you're holding.
So let's just recap that visualization process real quick. Step 1, you establish that feeling of presence, that you're not alone. Step 2, you visualize receiving this box. And step 3, you just sit with it for a moment. You don't even have to open it yet. You just acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it contains your worries, recognize their weight, but maybe for the first time, you see them as separate from yourself.
And here's the thing, this isn't some new age mindfulness trick that was just invented. It's a practice that's deeply, deeply rooted in Scripture, specifically in Psalm 139. That verse says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts." Visualizing this box becomes a real, tangible way of inviting God to do exactly that, to help you see and understand the anxious thoughts that you're holding on to. It's an act of honest self-awareness, but in a totally safe space.
So now that we've prepared the space, we've visualized our worries, we get to the real turning point of the whole prayer. This is the active part, the moment of release. We're moving from just observing our anxiety to doing something really intentional with it. This is the act of surrender. This is where the magic happens.
And this is absolutely crucial. We don't try to tackle the entire box at once. That would be completely overwhelming, right? The source is very specific about this. You open the box, but you only take out one single thought, just one. By focusing on a single, manageable worry, the process keeps us from getting flooded and makes the act of surrendering it feel, achievable.
This brings up a really fascinating point about how our brains are wired. I'm actually really curious to hear what you think. Why is focusing on just one worry at a time so effective? Do you think it's about building momentum, like a small win? Or maybe it just makes the whole problem feel less huge and intimidating? Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd love to read your perspective on this.
Okay, so once you have that one thought in your hand, you're ready for the pivotal moment: surrender. What does it actually mean here? In the context of this prayer, surrender is the conscious, intentional act of handing over that one specific thought to God.
You actually visualize yourself looking at God who's right there with you, and you physically hand it over. You're releasing your grip, you're opening your hand, and you're transferring the responsibility for that worry into His care.
And this really highlights the huge shift that happens in that one moment of surrender. On one side, you have my burden, which is all about wrestling with the thought, turning it over and over in your mind, trying to solve it all on your own. But when you hand it over, you move to the other side, God's care. This is a state of trust. It's where you trust Him to guide and lead you, acknowledging that you don't have to figure it all out by yourself.
Now, after the act of giving comes the equally important act of receiving. See, this prayer isn't a one-way street where you just drop off your burdens and walk away. The framework includes a vital next step, filling the space you just created with reassurance, with strength, with hope. This is where the prayer shifts to focus on receiving God's promises, straight from Scripture.
So, picture this. You've handed over that one anxious thought. You're sitting there, your hands now empty. In that moment of quiet, the source guides you to imagine God speaking directly to you, using these words of incredible comfort from the books of Isaiah. And this isn't just wishful thinking. It's about actively listening to and accepting specific promises that directly counter the very nature of fear and anxiety.
The first promise speaks right to that deep fear of being alone, of not belonging, of being forgotten. Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. Just let that sink in. That is such a powerful anchor against the kind of anxiety that whispers that you're insignificant. It's a promise of identity, of belonging, of ultimate connection.
The second promise, this one confronts the fear of our trials, the fear that we're going to be consumed by our challenges. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Now notice, it doesn't say you won't walk through fire. It acknowledges that challenges are a real part of life. The promise is one of protection through the trial, not removal from it. It's a promise of resilience.
And finally, this promise speaks directly to that feeling of being completely overwhelmed, of feeling helpless. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. It's not just a vague hope, it's a specific promise of active help and direct support right when you feel like you have absolutely no strength left.
So, as we start to bring all of this together, what's the ultimate goal of this 5-minute exercise? Well, it's a journey. It's about a fundamental shift in our internal posture, moving from a state of constant looping worry to a deliberate choice of trust. Let's just recap that pathway one more time to see how we get there.
The whole process is really so beautifully simple when you lay it out. First, you quiet your mind and create that space. Second, you externalize your anxieties by putting them in the box. Third, you make the problem manageable by surrendering just one single thought. Fourth, you fill that empty space by receiving specific promises of identity, protection, and help. And the result of all these steps is that final one, a conscious cognitive reframing, a real shift in your mind from a cycle of worry to a foundation of trust.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. You know, we so often think that peace is the absence of problems, but what if that's not it at all? What if true peace isn't something we find when all our worries finally disappear, but something we find in the very moment we decide we no longer have to carry them all by ourselves? What if it begins the exact moment we choose to share the weight? If you were inspired by this video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Be Thankful. Feel free to share this video as well. Thank you and God bless.